Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Oh my goodness. Are you out there sweating? Because I was. It is really, really warm today. Thank you all for tuning in to K4CO Radio. Hope you have some wonderful plans this weekend. And I am incredibly excited and honored to be here at this very moment in time. We have a very incredible special guest with us today who wrote an amazing book, and we're going to get into all of that and so much more. So Risa August is with us, and she wrote the Road Unpaved. Risa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here. This is the coolest thing ever.
It's pretty cool. I know. You get to share your story with the world, and you have quite the story. From a personal experience, I mean, I couldn't put your book down. I read it twice within 4 days, and I underlined and bookmarked and everything. I literally laughed and cried like several times, even rereading it twice. I mean, truly, the accolades that you have been given already don't even do it justice for me. I mean, it is so powerful. The integrity, the determination that you must have as a person just is astounding to me. So I wanted to say that up front before we get into everything that you are and everything that you've accomplished, that this has meant a lot to me personally.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Wow. I get shy. I don't know what to say.
You can't be shy. I read your book. You're not shy. No, the authenticity, I think I wrote that 42 times in my book. I'm like, man, this woman is so there and living in the moment, and just, it's just awesome. So start from the beginning, if you would. And I'm going to, of course, say this incorrectly. So your diagnosis, I'm going to have you say it because I've tried a few times. So launch into that if you would, and kind of walk us through the beginning of when you were diagnosed, how that shaped you. And of course, I want to know about how long you've been bike riding and when that really became this huge passion of yours.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yes. Where do I start? So the name of the disease I have is acromegaly.
Thank you. Again, I'm still going to have you say it moving forward.
Such a stupid name, right? Okay. And it's caused by a tumor on the pituitary gland. And these tumors are believed to be rare. Let me rephrase that. These tumors are called rare, but they are believed not to be so rare. It's believed that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people actually are walking around with these tumors. But they're difficult to diagnose. It took about 7 to 8 years for mine to get diagnosed based on when I started noticing changes in my body. But it's believed I had my tumor for over a decade.
Wow. Really, for 10 years? Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you would go in and see doctors and go to the hospital, what would they say to you for all those times? You know, I know in your book a little bit it was, hey, you're tired and you need to change your diet a little bit. But I mean, you knew. And I went through and I've shared a little bit about my personal story. No one knows our bodies better than ourselves. End of story, end of discussion right there. And not to diminish or, you know, there are wonderful doctors out there. But again, if we know something is wrong, we know it. We live in our own skin and nobody else is there. So what was kind of your process navigating through that of being kind of misdiagnosed, and how did you cope with that?
Gosh, yes. So like I said, from the time I started noticing symptoms to actual diagnosis, it was almost 8 years. And I was an athlete. I was very strict with my diet and almost neurotic about it. I think I talk in my book about how I battled orthorexia, which is, being hyper focused on what you're putting into your body. And I'd go into the doctor and I'd say, hey, I noticed something's wrong. And I kept being told, oh, your blood work's fine. Or, well, you're young and you're an athlete. I'm not worried. And I just kept chalking things up to, okay, well, maybe I'm overtraining or not drinking enough water, or I mean, even one of my symptoms was like, like the hair on my arms was getting thicker, and I thought, okay, well, I have a Romanian heritage. Maybe it's just my heritage. Like, seriously, like I was finding every reason to explain these things away. And
I agree. Thank you for saying that. I'm going to share a tad personal. Can I tell you a little personal on this? I want this to be about you. But the moment, everyone read this book, The Road Unpaved, please go read it. It's so inspiring. If you are struggling in any element of your life, this will open your eyes. Because I think a lot of us we have people come in that are in very similar shoes with all different diagnoses that have been either misdiagnosed, mistreated, etc., to bring awareness. And I was literally told that everything is normal for 4 or 5 months. And I can't imagine going through that for 8 years. And I started to feel crazy. And I'm like, yeah, okay, this is hormonal. And I had a blood clot when I was pregnant. And of course, you are your third trimester. You're supposed to be uncomfortable. Your back is supposed to be doing what it's doing and cramping. Like, no, this isn't normal. Tell me I'm not crazy. And finally, when the correct diagnosis happened, I burst into tears because I was so glad that now there was a reason for this going on, that I'm not crazy. I've been an athlete since I was young, and I know my body really well of what it can handle and what it can't. And we know when something is off. But yeah, it's so interesting that we and we'll get into kind of minimizing, maximizing, accepting, because I think that to me and being in that authentic moment is really powerful with this. Because I think a lot of us do that. We are either judging, shaming, and comparing ourselves to other people and saying, well, you're the doctor or the nurse or the physician or therapist, and you must know. So what was that moment when they finally diagnosed, saying this is what you have? What was that moment like for you?
oh my goodness. First I remember being in an endocrinologist office. I didn't even know what an endocrinologist really was. And so I'm sitting in the office, and it was very actually surreal. And the very friendly endocrinologist comes in, and she pulls up this screen of my skull, the MRI images, and there's this really big gray blob between my eyeballs, and she's pointing at it, and she's like, this has to come out. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't have time for this. Like, I have things to do.
No, exactly. Can't you get rid of it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I seriously, it wasn't quite registering, and I didn't know what that entailed. And, and all of a sudden we're talking about brain surgery, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So then my mindset shifted, and I'm like, all right, let's get this sucker out and let's go. She's like, oh, I'm not done yet. You also have this rare disease called acromegaly. And I'm like, what? Acro what? And, I couldn't even pronounce it. And she started doing all these tests with me. And it explained everything I was feeling and trying to share with my doctors of, like, everything I was going through. And so I remember I get off the table, and sit down back in the chair, and that's exactly what I said to her. And it's actually bringing up emotion in me right now. And I said, so you mean to tell me I'm not crazy? And I said it in this very quiet voice, and she looks over at me, and I said, so I'm not crazy? And she looks at me, and she goes, Risa, you are not crazy. And I just started bawling. I lost it. It's just like, finally, I fucking knew it. Finally an answer. So it's just this mix of surrealism and like, oh my gosh, yes, validation.
Mm-hmm. Completely. I totally can relate. Yeah, it was, I remember that moment too, like it was yesterday. It was almost 6 years ago for me. And it's the moment of, I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up. Like, wow, someone is actually going to, number one, listen to me and find what has been causing all of this.
Yeah.
So when you went back to maybe some of your other doctors and said, hey, here's what was going on, what was their response with that?
Well, I was very angry. I was so angry at these dogs. Like I'm a really good writer. So if I need to write a scathing email, I'm your girl.
I may be hiring you for that, but I'm a pretty good one too.
And I really thought about this for a long time. I wanted to just write this long saga and, epic email of like just bringing her down, bringing this doctor down. Like, you have no idea what I've been through. And I ended up meeting a gentleman, another acromegaly patient. And he is out there in the world fighting the good fight, trying to bring more attention and awareness to this. And he said, Risa, we need these guys on our side. And that changed my whole perspective. And I never wrote the letter, but I did fire her as my doctor.
That was maybe a good step. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say maybe we're going to part our ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was extremely angry and decided to get the entire board of the hospital in one room and went that route. Did that for a little bit. Because it's like my whole thing is when you have a patient, we're not a number, we're not a statistic, we are a heartbeat and we have value. Please treat us that way and listen to us. Because I understand both sides, right? They get overworked or they really truly don't know. But if people don't know, like I do this in my profession, hey, if I really don't know and I'm guessing, maybe go to somebody else. I've been a dog trainer for 11 years. And if I truly can't help you, I will refer you out immediately. Say this is out of my wheelhouse. I don't have the education. I don't have the experience. It's something I'm not comfortable with, whatever it is. So for me, I circulated. Yeah, I did that a lot. And I agree we need them on our side. So much so. How long have you been biking? Has this been since childhood?
No, actually, it's 2003, I started racing triathlons. It's this weird thing. I went back to school and to finish my degree, and I was working part-time as a lifeguard, and so I like really got good at swimming. I just, I'd swim on my breaks, and I would see triathletes come in and train, and I'm like, well, what are you training for? And they said, oh, triathlon, you should try one. And so I looked into it, and I was like, oh, well, I'm a good swimmer, and I can run, and anyone can bike, right? So
Sure. That's why you're a true athlete. Anyone can do this, right?
Well, I ended up doing my first sprint triathlon, and I loved it. It just, oh my gosh, the euphoria after crossing the finish line. It was such a big deal for me, and then it kind of progressed into Ironman distance triathlons, and then I started doing like endurance cycling kind of in the off season, where I'd do week-long bike tours, like 500 miles or something like that, and I just loved it so much. And then after surgery and radiation treatment, I quickly learned all the significant changes that happened in my body physically. And I would never run again, and not far distances anyways. And so I was like, but I can still bike. So I just started focusing on cycling and all the fun things that come with it. It's just such a different perspective, a different way to see the world.
For sure. We're going to delve into your book definitely more. I wanted to take a quick break. We will get into your amazing book here in a minute. Thank you again for all of our listeners tuning in. This is a special K4CO Radio today. We have Risa August with the Road Unpaved. We're going to take a quick music break and be right back. Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to a special interview here at K4CO Radio. We have been listening to Risa August, who wrote the book, The Road Unpaved, and we are delving into a whole bunch of amazing stuff. If you're just tuning in, don't worry, this will be streamed live and it will be on YouTube and all over because this is one that is incredibly important. So thank you again, Risa, for being here. Wanted to get into, there's so much to get into. With your book, was this something that was going through your mind way before you started writing it? When did that kind of come into fruition?
Yeah, so I think I was waiting for the right story because I actually had been wanting to write a book for decades. And, after my diagnosis and a lot of time sitting on the couch, I pulled out that bucket list of mine and I started looking at all the things I wanted to do and accomplish in this life. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my story. And it just continued to morph and evolve from there.
Nice. And so this book, particularly, it is your travels on a bike. I want our listeners to understand that this is on a bike. That is so fascinating to me. From Canada to Mexico. You covered the entire United States, north to south. That's no easy feat for anyone, let alone you're like, I just got diagnosed with something pretty rare that it's affecting my brain. I'm going to go jump on my bike through a country. I want to know how that happened. What was the process? Were you like, I'm going to go kick the living what out of this and go find myself? Because that's at least what I was reading about, but I want to know your process.
Yeah, so this is a little layered, this answer, but the moment, I was sitting on the couch. I remember I'm sitting on the couch in these tattered gray sweatpants that I feel like I was wearing for 2 years. And I just had no energy, no motivation, no desire to get up and try to do anything. Because who was I now? I was no longer the athlete. I even lost some of my sharp, detailed skill set and had some cognitive stuff happening and memory stuff. And who was I now? And I remember thinking, this isn't how I want to live. I don't want to be the girl in the gray sweatpants on the couch. I want to live. I really want to live. And so again, that bucket list came out. I had always wanted to ride my bike from coast to coast. And I started looking at routes and I'm like, this is going to be my healing journey. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm looking at routes and I didn't see any I loved, but then I found the Pacific Coast bicycle route and I'm like, that's it. And so I immediately signed up for this semi-supported tour. I had 14 months to figure out how I was going to get off the couch out of those gray sweatpants and get back on my bike. I had no idea because I could barely get to the mailbox. And then there was this part of me too that was fighting to keep that old self alive. Everyone expects this from me. Everyone expects Ironmans from me and the overachiever, the go-getter, the person who does everything like perfectly and always has her ducks in a row. And I was fighting to hang on to her and keep her. And I haven't really divulged that part of it so much, but that was also a little bit of a driving force.
For sure.
I'm going to prove to everyone and maybe myself that I can still do it.
Absolutely. It is, man, you hit a lot of different points there. The stresses of our outside world, right? Of what is my husband or my kid or my friends or my support system or my family or work or any of this, they have this mold or this image of you. And here is how they expect us to show up. And when that gets shattered, which again, I can completely relate with the medical world, everything changes. Yeah. And all that other crap goes away because I care about surviving. And now I had my son with me that was still in my tummy, and it creates this authentic spot. And for those of you, please read this book. There's a donut part in this, and it's just eat the effing donut. Like, stop talking about all this, and it's just noise after a while. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna show up how I'm gonna show up. This is my authentic self. Are you gonna love me and accept me or not? And you can go to hell if you don't. Yeah. Like, it really, it got to that point for me where it's like, who are the people that really love me unconditionally and who are going to support me? And you really go into that too, into the book of who's your support system and who's going to be there for you when you reach out and really need someone. And that, I don't know if you want to go into that layer of that, of kind of where your support system was and how you got through that with some people that you needed and where your support system came from, even along the biking journey.
Yes. Well, again, layered, layered answer, because there's this part of me that, kind of prided myself in being self-sufficient and independent and strong, and I could do it all myself and I don't need the help of everyone. And then people started stepping forward, wanting to help, and so I had to get used to receiving that, and then sorry, I'm losing my thought here. I'm having a cognitive memory thing.
It's all good, all good. Yeah, support systems.
Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had to readjust to that, and at the same time, it's interesting because on the outside I look like the same person. So it's almost like all these people who I've had around me knew I had gone through this thing, but then they just thought, okay, but you're still the same person, and you'll bounce back and you'll heal and you'll be back to yourself in no time. And I quickly learned I would never be the same again. Never.
When people don't walk in the shoes, it's a totally different thing to experience it, right? I mean, that's empathy versus sympathy to me right there. I think we as humans need both. I think we all need some form of support system to get through it, because it's the iceberg effect, right? You only see the top of it, but there's so much going on underneath that people either don't allow themselves to go there. I think a lot of people put up that barrier and say it's too painful for me to talk, especially our loved ones. They're like, oh my gosh, you're going to go have brain surgery? How am I going to cope? How can I even understand this? How do I be there for you? Because it is, again, that image of this woman is so strong. She's an athlete. She can't be suffering. And if we can kind of get rid of whatever that judgment is around it, it's just connecting with another human being.
Absolutely.
Like, how are you really feeling? I'm going to sit with you in this moment no matter what. If you puke on me, pee on me, I don't care. If you need word vomit, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, for me at least, that is what I needed on my journey. It was like someone just asked me how I'm feeling, like genuinely asked me how I'm feeling, instead of being like, did you go to work today? I'm like, you know what, go away. That doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So I think it's to have that connection. What I loved about your journey too on the bike ride is you wanted to really have it be your own personal journey. And I can relate to that. And then it's like, I'm going to go find these little pockets of talking to people and finding those connections and being surprised. Tell me about maybe some of those relationships that you discovered on your journey.
Oh yeah, gosh. So yes, so this was going to be a solo healing journey. And it was, like I said, semi-supported, like 10 of us were putting our gear in a van, and then it was up to us to figure out how we were going to get to the next town to catch up with our gear. And so I was like, great, I could ride by myself and just figure out what I'm going to do with my life and this new person that I am. And I remember on the first day, I was like, oh my gosh, like this, looking at this group of people, you know, I think I called it a dysfunctional family in my book. And I was a little resistant at first. And, but then I thought, you know what, wait a minute, I love connection. So I started making the effort to connect with people one-on-one and opening up to them. And it became my family, like whether dysfunctional or not, it was my family for 6 weeks. And it was wonderful. I had some beautiful moments.
You talked earlier about, you know, being an athlete, and there's something about crossing that finish line, that feeling, that euphoria. And you went on this journey from Canada to Mexico. And I'm curious, that's a long journey. Were there certain moments in certain states, certain areas that just gave you that euphoria through your journey? I mean, because that's very long. Was there like, you know, I was standing at this place, I was biking here, and it just was incredible?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, yes. The first 2 weeks felt somewhat miserable. It was like very cold and rainy. And I remember we'd run into some of the locals, like riding through Washington State, and they were like, you know, it was September, and they would say stuff like, it hasn't rained since June. And here it was just downpouring, cold every day, you know. And so I struggled with some of that sometimes, but I would like almost consciously find these moments of really looking around and embracing. And, you know, one of those moments was seeing this massive, like human, I think bigger than human sized teddy bear sitting in a recliner at the end of someone's driveway in rural Washington somewhere. And it's pouring rain, and I just remember looking up, seeing this giant teddy bear just like, yay, waving at us, you know. And there were moments like that just like made me smile. And, you know, and then one of the first sunny days in Oregon, coming up on this curve, I was coming up this climb on this curve, and it just opened up to the Pacific Ocean, and we're looking down on Manzanita, and the sun's out, and it was just incredible. Like I just, I mean, I am at a loss for words. And, you know, and then also when you're riding your bike on the bike path and you're surrounded by a sandy beach in Southern California. I mean, come on, you can't, like, that's hard to beat too.
And there was a time that you went through a very rough, windy patch. And I loved how you responded to that. Come get in the van. And you're like, I am going to stay on my bike and pedal my butt off. And you all can meet me there. I mean, that to me illustrated your journey of being diagnosed. It's like, it's going to be hard. Put one foot in front of the next. I'm going to walk to the mailbox. I'm going to get on my bike and go through the storm, and it's going to be hard, but I can do this, and watch me do it. You can be there and kind of be the support system from behind. Make sure, you know, don't fly off the cliff, which you almost did, by the way. At least from your book, I'm like, oh my God, she's holding onto her bike. Yeah, what was that like?
I don't want to give too much away.
Oh, sorry. I know. I've read it twice, and I'm like, sorry.
But yes, I think what it is for me is I really want to live my life full out. You know, I now have this gift of a brain tumor who has a name, and
does. We've even gotten into the naming of it, right?
And now I get to, like, it's really kind of fueled me to, like, wait a minute, like, what have I been doing all this time? And so it's just turned into this thing of, like, I'm going to live my life on my terms, and I'm going to play hard and full out. And And that's really what drives me is, okay, I'm going to go through this thing and it might be hard, but I know what it'll get me. I know, like crossing the finish line of an Ironman or completing a race or completing a hard project or doing a hard thing. I know what it gets me. And that's really a driving force for me.
That's amazing. Thank you. When we get back, I know we need to name your brain tumor. We haven't even gotten into how you named it. And again, I won't divulge too much because I know the name, of course. Thank you again for all of our listeners tuning in to a special K4CO radio interview. We have Risa August, who is the author of The Road Unpaved. We're going to cut away for a quick music break and be right back. Afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining us for an awesome and incredible, very inspiring interview. I haven't cried yet, which I'm actually a little shocked at, actually. We have the beautiful on the inside out, Risa August with The Road Unpaved, talking about her book and her journeys from Canada to Mexico with a brain tumor, which I just still find it so fascinating just to have that determination. And
most people don't have that determination without anything going on.
I can't imagine biking to my house right now. Like, truly, that sounds so daunting. I'm like, gosh, that's kind of warm outside. I'm going to get in my car. Like, it does. It's so true. I mean, truly, the amount of grit that you have as a human being, I wish I had like a pinky full of that. It's just astounding to me. So I wanted to get in. You had mentioned a little bit about naming. And I know that was kind of a little bit of a process for you, going through some different names. So are we able to share with the listeners the name of the brain tumor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I love humor, and I feel like for me it's really important to integrate it in every part of my life because it fills me up. And so sometimes even the dark moments, I like to add humor. And so I remember I was talking to a mentor of mine, and she's a practitioner in the holistic realm of things. And I remember I was like, I'm so healthy. I take care of my body. I eat well. I'm like, why is this happening to me? And I'm just so angry about it. And she said, well, what if you talked nicer to your body? Because, you want to work with your body to heal. And so why don't you name your tumor and start to, being nice? And I'm just like, that's ridiculous. But that sunk in, and I started thinking about it. And so I was trying to think of all these cool, like just fun, names. Like in my book, I like Rocky or Shaka Khan, or like something really cool. And Bubba. Bubba came up over and over, and Bubba is my tumor's name. I just like imagined this oafish, goofy voice come into my mind, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Bubba. I can't believe it.
Nice.
That's the name. and so it really became a part of this story of like, okay, Bubba, it's time to retire. You served your purpose. I don't need you anymore. It's time to move on. And so his retirement date, of course, was my surgery date. But then 3 months after that, he decided retirement wasn't it for him. And so he's definitely back to work part-time.
And even after that, so you went through chemo.
Radiation. Yep.
Radiation. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that was grueling. And I know that was kind of a process for you. Do I do this? Do I not? I know we don't have to get into that if you don't want to. But that was an everyday thing for you for a while.
Yes. You're talking to someone who wouldn't even take ibuprofen for pain. I really tried to eat clean and treat my body well. And now I'm faced with, okay, medication for the rest of your life or radiation treatment that could potentially shrink your tumor, and you don't have to be on medication for the rest of your life. So this poison or that poison.
Right.
And I mean, the decision, I feel myself getting emotional again, but the decision felt impossible. Like, are you kidding me? And initially I said, no way. No way, I'm not getting radiation. I know what that does to people. I know what it does to the body. And then I had a lot of outside noise. You really should get radiation because you're going to be on medication the rest of your life. And that's a whole nother poison that is doing all kinds of things to my body. And I just woke up in a panic like 2 weeks later. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get radiation treatment. And I bawled. I bawled my eyes out on the first day driving to the treatment center. And I wore my Wonder Woman outfit. And I went every day for 30 days, and it just became a part of the routine. But I wore that Wonder Woman outfit every day, even mornings. I was like, this is the fucking stupidest thing ever. I still put it on, and got through that. And yeah, I don't know. I might have made a different decision knowing what I know now. I didn't have all the information back then, but I don't know. It's how it happened. So.
Well, a dear friend of me who's sitting not too far from me, I do that too. Had I made a different decision 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 7 years ago, and I'm going to steal your words here, you can't live in the past. You are now in the present. And we do what we have to do with the knowledge that we have right now. And it's hard because I think as humans, as anyone in any type of relationship, I do that as a parent, as a friend. I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have said this or done that. And we are always second guessing and kind of judging that. But I truly think in the moment, with the knowledge and experience we have, we are making the best decision that we can at that moment with the tools that we have. And I know hindsight's always 20/20, right? And we're looking in the rearview mirror going, well, if I had just gone, a 1 degree left, how had that, because we all do that, it's on our journey. But I mean, you even said before the break, I have the gift of a brain tumor. Like, that is pretty astounding.
Now, I actually wanted to get into that real quick and even jump into the past a little bit. So yeah, earlier you said the gift of a brain tumor. And it's a way to think about it right there. And I'm sure, especially early on when it came to all of this, you were going through an array of emotions, just up and down, and throughout this process. And to get to the point where you say this is kind of a gift of a tumor, or kind of a blessing of a tumor that you actually said earlier, if you could kind of go back in time to tell yourself something when you were going through all this array of emotions, when you were finding out, when you're going through the earlier part of this, from what you've experienced and what you've learned about it, where sometimes you even call it a gift and a blessing, what would you say to yourself on that?
Yes, gosh. Well, I still go through hard times, and but I look back at how far I've come. I mean, I'm just a better person all around. And so I'd probably look back and say to that girl sitting in that endocrinologist's office being told I have to have brain surgery and not having no idea what was ahead of me, as, you get to choose how to move forward in your life. And you get to choose the perspective, the lens in which you view your life, and you get to decide how to move forward with this. And so that really became something for me that I started doing intentionally and consciously throughout the entire process. And now I could easily look back and be like, wow, because I chose to take this path as opposed to that path. Like look how far I've come. And now I can see this as a blessing, and I can see that, I'm inspiring others and giving others hope, and, but gosh, if I told myself back then I'd be inspiring others, I don't know that I would have believed it. But yeah, gosh, yeah, I don't know. I would have probably said this is actually going to be one of the best gifts ever, because I truly am a better person. Truly, truly. I really love who I am now. I really love, and who I'm becoming. Because, right, we continue to evolve. And I'm really, yeah, I'm pretty great.
I said that exact phrase 6 months ago. I love who I am, and I love my life. And it's, oh my gosh, I'm so moved by your story. It's amazing to me to go through. I've shared a little bit about being in other recovery circles and other support systems, and it's to get through the dark tunnel and to see the light, and it's to go through it. And the way that you did it, I love that you said intentionally. That's one of my most favorite words, intentionally and authentically. Show up however you're going to show up, and do it with intention. And how are you going to look at the day? And believe me, days for me, like all of us, some days just suck. And I don't want to get out of bed. I'm tired. My body hurts. I don't want to get in the shower. That's a pain in the butt. I make a to-do list every night, and I put brush my teeth on it every single day. Because I'm like, I have to do something tomorrow that I know I can probably do. And from there, it'll just be gravy, right? It's just however the day unfolds, just roll with it. And it's the perspective. And I always try and take the positive spin as much as I can. But days are sometimes not like that. I'm like, it's going to be a sweatpants and Cheetos type of day. And you know what? That is going to be okay. So this morning I was at a function. I'm like, I'm going to eat the effing donut, because that is what Risa would tell me to do. And I literally was the first one to go get the donut, and everyone else went and did it. See, it's okay. You can show up and eat the freaking donut. It'll be all right.
Exactly. And that's what I stopped focusing on what I couldn't do and what I could no longer do. And I started asking myself in each moment, what can I do? And some of those mornings was like, well, I can get out of bed and brush my teeth. And then some mornings I was getting dressed. I was getting to the mailbox, and then eventually I'm riding 1,800 miles down the coast. It's just really putting one foot in front of the other, right? It's like, ask yourself in each moment, well, what can I do? And stop focusing on what you can't do.
Exactly.
Do you have some good plans coming up? You already biked from Canada to Mexico, so you like biking. I can't see myself biking a mile, but that's just me. But yeah, what do you got in store? What's kind of next on your little list there?
Yes, gosh. Well, I just got back from Spain last week. I spent a month there, and I rode my bike across northern Spain, about 500 miles on the Camino de Santiago. And it brought me to my knees. Oh, my gosh. I just felt like I was getting pummeled by the universe in every direction. But it forced me to be extremely present and focused. So, all these things I thought I was going to figure out while I was on my trip. Oh, I didn't have time for that. It was like survival. And so, it'll probably definitely be a part of my next book. But as far as any big trips I don't know. I think I'm still processing and recovering from Spain. But I want to continue inspiring and connecting and sharing my story, because that sharing a person's story, that's truly, it's a healing process. It's so healing. So for me, that's just another gift of getting to share my story.
I agree. After I finally was on the other side of the blood clot, I got to tell my story, and it was on the flip side too. When you have people say, God, I watched you and thank you. I had the same symptoms, and I said, I think I have a blood clot. And so it's that one person that you can reach makes it completely worth it. If I save somebody's life because of what I had to go through, what else is there? What I wrote in the margins of one of your book, I'm stealing this from my dad, and I love his phrase, if we all did a little heavy lifting, it would make the world such a better place. And it's like, let me do one thing today to maybe inspire or give hope or connect or something. Hold the door for somebody. Maybe don't flip off somebody in the traffic, like, maybe just be still, and be nice to someone, because you never know how far that could go.
Absolutely.
My favorite is to just say, hi, how's it going, to a completely different stranger. And a lot of times they look at you like you're nuts.
It's so true. I've been doing that for years at the grocery store. It's life-changing. Like if you're checking out and they're like, hey, how are you? Hey, I'm good. Doot, doot, doot. And I'm like, how was your day? Have you been here for 8 hours? Like, it's so amazing. You have a conversation like, geez, I'm really tired. I want to go home. It's amazing, that connection. And you've been to 25 countries?
Yeah, I've been about 25 countries and counting. I hope to get to more. Right. Yeah.
Is this for, well, I can't say pleasure or work because it's the same. Are you biking through all of these countries?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Okay.
But I got the travel bug in my early 20s and just never looked back. And again, that bucket list of mine is, or maybe personal growth list. Well, I don't know. Maybe we call it something different. But yeah, I just love learning about other cultures and people, and because again, I love information and knowledge and learning and history, all of it. So
for sure, I know. What would you tell people that are listening if they are sitting on something on their bucket list? I say, I'll do it next year, or I'll do it when I have more money, or I'm whatever their reason is.
Oh gosh. So many things I want to say.
Mine is go do it now.
Yes.
Stop waiting.
Yeah. First I'd get curious about it. Like, what's blocking you? What's holding you back? And, maybe start thinking about, like, what would that get you? What would life be like if you accomplished that, or did that, or traveled to that place, or took that class you wanted? And and a lot of times that answer is like, well, this is what it'd get me. Well, that sounds pretty great. So just do it. Just eat the flippin' donut, right?
Exactly. I love that you talk about travel. To me, I have the travel bug for sure. I would go anywhere at any moment, and just pack me in a suitcase and I'm a happy girl. I think sometimes we do get that kind of narrow vision, and don't realize what a large world it is. And to be around, like you said, different cultures and different people. It's amazing the experiences that you can have when you immerse yourself and truly live in the moment. Being present for me, I have like little tap things that I do to be like, how is my body? Am I actually here? Which I know we're getting close, but I wanted for those that actually that are struggling, because this is a very common thread, whether it be with anything, with cancer or a brain tumor or mental health or addiction or just feeling kind of stuck. What would be your suggestion, if you have any, to be support system, or how to navigate through PTSD? What are some things that have helped you through that? Because it's not just about that moment, right? Everyone thinks it's like when we lose someone, it's in that moment. Mm-hmm. Like it's the funeral. And I'm like, you have all of this extra time where stuff comes up all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I would be personally curious, is how that ongoing support looks like.
Right. My gosh. Well, humans are compassionate. They want to help. They want to connect. And I think, like I said, for a long time, I was like, no, I can do this on my own. But no, reach out. Use your voice, whether it's advocating for yourself or connecting with someone. People want to help. People want to support. And you're worth it. Life's worth it. Life can be what you make it. And I cannot stress that enough. Like, it really could be the life you want it to be.
I love that phrase. You are worth it. It is so true. Anything that you wanted to add that I mean, I could seriously talk to you for all day. There's so many, like, I went through 1 page of notes out of 3 that I wanted to cover with you. Like, we can do like 4 hours with just you. But is there anything else that you really wanted to get across and talk about?
Oh my gosh, I think I've said it all, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I can't wait for your next book. Please let us know. Is this maybe going to be about Spain? About, you don't know, kind of something in the works?
Yes.
Okay. No spoilers, huh?
Exactly. I don't want to say for sure because it's an
Okay.
evolution, but we'll see.
Nice.
And we hope to have you in when that next book comes out. And
Oh, I would love that.
talk with us again.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys
Oh
are
my gosh.
fantastic.
Thank you for being here.
It's so
Truly,
fun.
this has been a total honor. I have talked about you for a week straight with every person that I know. I already know who's chiming in because I can see it dinging. Like, oh my God, she's amazing. We can't wait to read her book. I'm like, I told you, like, this woman is so powerful. So thank you for sharing your journey and being vulnerable and authentic, because that to me is so needed in our world today, for somebody just to show up and be like, I'm here.
Oh my
And-
gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You have made my heart a little bit more open. So I wanted to thank you. To all of our listeners, oh my goodness. Well, To Be Uncovered, we're going to have her back in after her next book and then her third book. I didn't even get into your accolades. I'm going to brag about you I have a whole minute, and it would take longer than that. So we have been here interviewing Risa August, who wrote the Road Unpaved. This book was the winner of the 24 Indie Book Awards. That's a very big deal. It was selected as the Distinguished Favorite Independent Press Award and a recipient of the 24 Global Women of Choice Awards. And that's just to name a few. And we're still in the beginning stages of this. Like, you're taking off, and it's going to be so huge. I feel it. I feel the like wonderful, good, positive vibes towards you. And that's just a few. Like, there's so many more. Like, that's again the tip of the iceberg. So, oh my goodness. So please go buy her book, and it's on Audible too.
Yes, I actually narrate it myself. So
Nice.
That's amazing. And where can people find your book?
you can get it on Amazon.com, or you can go to my website, risaaugust.com, and that's Risa with one S. And you could go to my book page, and I give you a whole list of other options for purchase.
Nice. And I love your Facebook page too. It's so fun to follow you and see you like as you're getting off your bike, and yeah, there's a few swear words, and it's so funny to me. It's like I'd be saying that too. Like I'd be really dog tired right at the moment.
Less seriousness, more fun.
For sure, for sure. And next time you come in, I either want the Wonder Woman or the tutu.
Okay, fair enough. You got it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again to everyone tuning in. Again, if you didn't get to hear the whole thing, we will be publishing this hopefully in the next couple days, so you can hear it on our YouTube. And we're videoing it too, so you can see some reels and videos and shorts of this amazing woman. So happy Friday, everyone. I hope you go out and enjoy the wonderful weekend. It's lovely. Go out on a bike ride. After just being inspired, no more excuses. Get on the bike and go do it. Thanks again to all of our listeners who've been listening to an interview at K4CO Radio. Happy Friday.